Hey, it's Zach with Life Insurance Academy, and today we have another training video, and today's focus is all about understanding who the final expense client is. Now, this is very important, especially when you're selling final expense, but truly in any type of sales that you might be in. These same principles apply to everything you do when you want to become great. Now, the first thing is it's going to allow us to understand who is it that we're actually serving. We can really dive in and understand who that person is. We can get in their shoes. We can understand how they think, because we must know what their problem is. And that's going to reveal their vulnerabilities. And then ultimately, how do we serve, or how do we prevent that problem from occurring, or how do we remove those vulnerabilities from our clients? And then we want to make sure why this is really and truly important to them. We should know that ever before we step into a home, or ever before we go into a sales situation. We should already know what that problem is and why it matters to them. But we can't tell them, we have to reveal it to them so they teach themselves of why it's important and why it matters to them so much. And ultimately what this is going to allow us to do, it's going to allow us to understand better on how they make decisions so we can move them to a solution. Now, when we look at our final expense client, we have to understand that this is one of the largest populations groups, especially in insurance, because we have over 10,500 people every single day turning 65. A lot of this is from the baby boomers generation now becoming of age and looking at protecting their families. Another thing, we know that this is a very highly underserved market. It's our job as agents, especially in the final expense market, to bring dignity back to these people, because a lot of these people are marginalized. A lot of them are forgotten. A lot of them are low to mid-income families that a lot of times are in, could be in very poor areas, or could be in very rural areas where not a lot of people actually take the time to focus on serving them and really looking at their problems or their vulnerabilities and trying to help them come up with a solution for their family and in the future. So let's take a little deeper look at this. When we look at our final expense client, let's focus on their age. The typical market that we want to serve is generally between 50 to 85. Now you may say, well, everybody needs final expense. That is true. We all do need some coverage at some point in time, but when it comes to the actual target market that we really want to focus on is generally 50 to 85. Because when you're looking younger than that, generally they have families that they're still providing for that are still at home. They're looking for other protections, and you're looking at possibly other policies or other types of policies at that point in time. And we look at somewhere around 85, because beyond that age, it's very difficult. It's still possible, but it's very difficult to be able to cover them with a product based upon their age and based upon their health. But a lot of times the price of that product could outweigh some of your options as well when you start to get in that upper age. So we'd really want to focus on between that 50 and 85 age range is really our sweet spot for helping people in the final expense market. Now, the other thing we really want to focus on is their health. Generally, these families or these people aren't extremely healthy, which is understandable, because when you look at the age group, at some point we will all have some health issues in time. But our typical final expense market, it's very common to see them with high blood pressure, very common to see them with high cholesterol medications. It could have a water pill or two just to help with blood flow to really prevent any type of major issues. Sometimes we run into families that have some diabetic issues. And sometimes we have families that have dealt with some lung issues, such as COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary lung disease, or any other type of minor issues. Every now and then we get into families that have dealt with cancer in the past or some other heart issues in the past. And the great thing is about the final expense market is we have the products and the availability and the training to be able to serve anybody, no matter what their health is in this market. The other thing we really want to focus on is their income range, because not everybody is technically a final expense client because of income. Because again, as we mentioned earlier in the video, we need to have a certain problem or a certain need that is also a vulnerability for the family. Meaning, if they don't have this in place, what would happen to them? How will this affect their families for generations to come? When you look at families in a high or large income pool, that need isn't necessarily glaring. It isn't that important, because they may have other assets in place, such as possible annuities, or maybe they have a lot of equity built up in a house, or they have retirement accounts, or they have a slush fund, they have a savings account. They have other assets they can lean on if something was to happen to them unexpectedly and it really wouldn't leave their family in a vulnerable situation. Now, our typical final expense client, we generally look at the age range up to about $50,000 of household income. Because when you look at that $50,000 and below, that's when you'll notice is these families typically don't have the availability to have a large savings account. They don't have availability to have a bunch of assets in place or other annuities or other retirement funds in place. So we have to think just $50,000 a month, or excuse me, $50,000 a year, you're not going to really be able to have a lot of extra money each month, meaning you don't have the ability to save those things. So when we look at a final expense product or protecting a vulnerability for a family, one thing that we will realize is when that low income, if they pass away or when they pass away, how is the family going to be able to cover all of those funeral expenses and make sure they're put away and taken care of the way they should and the way they deserve to be? Also, how are they going to be able to pay the living expenses if one of the spouses pass away, but yet it takes both of their Social Securities or both of their retirement plans or income in order to make everyday payments work? So the income range is very important when it comes to urgency, when it comes to need, and looking at making sure we're taking care of the families as best as we can. Now, when we focus on the income, we focus on the health, we focus on the age, we're also going to focus on the career path, because it's really good for us to understand who these people are and their personality, how they think, how they work, how they provide for their family. And a lot of people in the final expense industry, what we'll understand is they are coming from factory jobs. They are coming from jobs where they're hard working, putting in long hours. They're working at a lot of times factories, a lot of times gas stations, a lot of times automobile manufacturers. A lot of times they are farmers. They are people that work at convenience stores, people that work at grocery stores. All these jobs are very hard labor, very hard on your body internally and externally, which can create a lot of disability when it comes into health insurance or health issues. But it also breaks you down to the point where all of these jobs don't really pay a ton of money as well. But one thing that we have to understand about our clients is they're doing it because they love their family. They love somebody else. If not, we would all not work at all. If we could just have money for free, none of us would work. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But we do it for a reason, and these jobs are hard and difficult for them. These are skilled trades. These are carpenters. These are electricians. These are a lot of people that are really building America and going through this. So it's important to us to understand that how they value hard work and how they dedicate themselves in order to provide for their family. The other thing we want to think about is living environments. A lot of our final expense clients are really focused in traditionally more rural areas. Yes, they are in urban areas. They are in pockets where they have these demographics of the age and health, as we mentioned just previously. But a lot of them is going to be people in these smaller towns or these smaller little cities around or surrounding big cities or throughout the state, where a lot of people don't really travel to go see them. A lot of people don't really have the availability to go see them. And a lot of these people are kind of disconnected from the city or the urban life, so they don't really have a different insurance company in the corner of every single road. So understanding that their living environment of where they're located, but also when we look at these towns and we look at these rural areas, one thing you'll notice is there's not a lot of brand new neighborhoods being built. So a lot of these homes are very old. They've generally been passed down from generation to generation, which also means there's probably not a ton of upkeep on these houses as well, meaning roofs or foundation issues, or sometimes water or plumbing issues occur because these homes are older. And when you have a family that's in this situation that's working hard to provide for their loved ones, and they're on a low income, then they don't have money to set aside for savings account, it's very hard to have an extra slush fund or amount of money to be able to pull in to update and renovate the houses all the time. So sometimes they are in a little bit older areas, a little bit older houses that need a little help, need a little assistance. This is important for us to understand how they live as well, because when it comes to putting a plan in place to protect their family, we need to know all these things and all the areas of their life that we want to protect or really put their family in a position to really succeed or be in a position to where they're not vulnerable anymore. Now, when we look at the family dynamic, understanding where they live, a lot of times these families are traditionally going to have multi-generations living inside of them. Because of the lower income, because of the area where it is, because of these homes have been in the families for so long, you're going to have a typical final expense client. Sometimes you may have their parents living with them that are much older. Sometimes they may have their kids living with them, and then their grandkids with them as well. So you'll notice that there's multi-generations sometimes living inside of the home. It's not uncommon to see a brother or a sister or a cousin living with them as well, trying to help them get on their feet, because these families really care and love their siblings, they love their families, they love their friends, and they do everything they can to come together and really to help each other get into a better place. So this is also an opportunity to understand that if our client A lives at this house and they grew up around here, they spent their whole life around here, they went to high school around here, they got the job around here, their brother, their sister, their cousin, their aunt, their uncle, they probably live down the street or across town, and I guess what? They probably have the same income, they probably are around the same age, the same type of health, the same type of jobs, they went to the same types of schools. So when we look at all these opportunities around, this helps us get an idea of how these people think. Typically the education, there's not a ton of families in the final expense market that have really went and explored additional education such as college or community college or have any other additional degrees beyond their high school degree. So we want to understand what that's like and what their opportunities and how they view that is. That's also why there's not a ton of lawyers or a ton of high earning jobs typically in the final expense market, because typically those are in the bigger cities or the urban areas where typically those families have had an opportunity to attend college and they had different type of expectations. And the last thing I want to talk about to give you a better picture of who our final expense client is really going to be their hobbies. So when you look at and you put all this together and you're thinking about how the client actually grows up in this environment, a lot of times their hobbies are hanging out with their friends. A lot of it could be going ATV or four-wheeling. It could be fishing with the family. It could be going on long walks or doing little crafts inside the house, sometimes paintings. A lot of our families that we serve are collectors of some sort. This could be of old antiques. It could be of NASCAR memorabilia. It could be all kinds of things. It could be them creating some type of motorized airplanes. I've seen it all in the final expense market. But these people have hobbies, and I love and I'm so interested in learning about them, because this is what makes them tick. This is what makes them think. This is what allows us to understand them at a deeper level and have that connection, what's going to help you close more sales. Now, when you wrap all that together, it's really important to ask yourself, why does this client need this coverage? And the simple answer is they need it because they can't afford not to have it. If they do not have this in place, what is going to happen? What is going to happen to their funeral expenses? Who's going to be able to pay for that? What is going to happen to their spouse or their significant other that is using their Social Security check along with your client's Social Security check in order to pay the bills with no money left over? How long will they be able to pay the bills on half or 60% of the income? What are they going to do? Are they going to have to move? Are they going to have to pass the hat around and ask for donations? Are they going to have to get another family member to move in with them? Are they going to have to sell the home or lose the home and they go move into another family member? What happens to the kids or the grandkids that are living with them that they are actually providing for? What happens to their future opportunities of that generation to possibly go to college, to possibly go on a family vacation, to possibly get out of this environment and break the cycle or the chain in this client base and move their family to a different stage? How are they going to do that without you as the agent coming in to help? So it's very important for you to understand. And the better question is, why do they need it? The better question is, what would happen without it? And that's the question I want to leave you guys with, because the more you understand who you're serving, the more you understand what their problem is and their vulnerabilities in this market, then the more you will understand why it matters and how they make decisions. And you'll be able to craft the perfect plan to really put your families in a better place to win. And if this video was helpful, or if any of our videos have been helpful, I want you to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Leave us a comment or reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you more. We'd love to bring you more content. We want to hang out with you guys. Our goal is to bring value to the entire industry. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching the video. Again, hit like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. And if you did, we appreciate you. Thank you much. We'll see you in the next video.